Here with Coach McCrath from our men's soccer team. Coach, I know there's a lot of excitement around your team coming back this year. You're excited going into the season. What can fans expect from this year's team?
I would say the expectations would be energy. I think when you're at any sporting event, when you watch a good game, there's an energy. And they always talk about there's energy in the stadium, there's energy from the player, there's energy from just the atmosphere. And I haven't felt this since probably some of our better teams. And I'm excited. When I'm at training, even when things aren't going right, because we're also infusing a lot of new faces, it's been really exciting. And like I said, the energy has been good. So I would expect that they should see that.
We'll get to all the returners in just a second, Coach, but you mentioned working in some of the new guys. Who are some of the new guys that you think can make an impact this year, and what's the learning curve when you're trying to work those guys into your system?
Well, we actually have a number of guys, but there's probably 4, 5, 6 guys, so to name them all might get a little messy, but I would just say that probably the hardest thing to bring them in is that sometimes they have their own personal style, which is the flair, that why we brought them. Then there's the part but there's a system in which the rest of our team knows what they know, and they have to kind of infuse into it. And you see it all the time. Maybe sometimes someone gets transferred from one team to another, and it fits, and they're an absolute fit. And then there's other people that they think will fit, and they come into that team, and it just doesn't work. And oftentimes I think it has to do with where the person's head is. And I think right now with our guys, the biggest difficulty is making them feel comfortable enough that, hey, you are in the right place. And then who they are and what they do will assimilate right in. So right now, it's pretty comfortable. I really am, like I said, going back to the last question, the energy. I think the new guys are assimilating it real well. So like I said, about 4, 5, 6, 7 of them.
Coach, when you look at the defensive end of the ball for you guys, obviously you have some names that everyone's going to remember, and you have some leaders on defense as well. Tell us a little bit about them.
Well, Michael Dodds is now a senior. Brian Brown. Those two guys are, they understand what the program's about. In fact, Brian Brown is the one crossover from when we had one of our strong seasons, and then before we'd had this, this last little bit of a run that wasn't probably normal for Barry soccer. And so the nice part is that Brian understands what it's about and where that bridge is. So in one aspect, he has that mental bridge, but he's also got an approach that I understand what sports are all about, so no matter what my role is, starting, not starting, whatever, he plays that role off the field, on the field. Dodds has been performing probably the best I've seen him. I think he's finally come into a maturity that is beyond your playing. It's beyond the game, and I think when players get there, that's when their game finally blossoms. And Michael has been really good about putting his hands in, getting involved with maybe like the workmanship side of getting other players to kind of join in, and so it's been really good with those two.
Coach, obviously everybody wants to see goals scored. Who stood out to you so far, and who's going to be some of your impact players scoring the ball?
Well, we probably have 4 or 5 guys that new and returning, but I think that with, again, the way the last couple of years were, it was so much of a struggle. I think there was so many other pieces of the puzzle that were broken that now these guys are ready to fly. So just alone in our preseason, I've seen even in training sessions, there hasn't been a consistent score. There's been a consistent group of guys scoring. So again, Patra Mola and Thomas Coombs, Manu Perez, Niall Patel. There's like I said, there's enough guys out there. Sergio Yepes scored a really fine goal in one of our preseason scrimmage games for a young player. So there's so many pieces to this puzzle that, again, we don't have a rhythm yet, so it's hard to say that guy.
Coach, the Sunshine State Conference, obviously one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive, at this level. What are your impressions early on? I know it's early, but what do you think about going into conference play, and what do you expect this year?
I expected to be favorable, to be honest. I mean, when I first had arrived at Barry, I realized that, okay, this is where the team was, and it needs to be fixed. We've been here now long enough that I know what I know about the teams in the conference. It's always going to be strong. And again, upon my first arrival, the conference was strong, but it wasn't full of all the great coaches that they have now. I mean, programs have gotten a lot more financial support. The recruiting has gone up. The coaching's gone up. There's not an easy game. There just is not an easy game. And so for that matter, I would tell you that every game makes you have to be prepared and have to be on the edge, ready to go. And so I still feel favorable about what we're doing right now. that I would be surprised if we had anything less than a very, very good year.
And then finally, Coach, you mentioned having a good year. Is there a standard that you set for your team? Are there any goals that you set going into the season for what you want to accomplish?
We've got our team goals, but I think that they're one of those things where we haven't necessarily thrown it on paper, and we haven't thrown it out into the media, because I think right now, again, because it's been very non-Barry the last couple seasons, this is kind of one of those, hey, we've chosen to regroup, and we're regrouping in such a way that I think it's better for us to keep it within, and then we'll express it in our artistry, so to speak, out on the field. So that's kind of where the first question comes back around, is the energy. That'll be key.
Coach, thanks and best of luck to you this season.
Thanks a million, Danny.